Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. This episode contains discussions of sensitive topics, including childhood sexual abuse, substance use and overdose, anxiety and panic attacks, trauma related to wildfires, and grief from the loss of a stillborn child. Listener discretion is advised. Well, hello and welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. Today, we are exploring how the transformative practice of spinal energetics can align us with our highest potential. And this is going to be a particularly enlightening episode as we're diving into what is spinal energetics with practitioner Amanda O'Mara. If you've ever felt held back by some invisible barriers in your life or in your business, and it seemed like there was something deeper blocking you, blocking your full expression, blocking your beliefs or your ability to move forward, we're going to look at how spinal energetics can work to release the stored tension and trauma in the body at an unconscious level, but it does show up in the body in different ways, and it can activate this connection to your inner energy and bring about an authentic expression of your voice and catalyze more expansion into the areas of your life that you're seeking to energize and move into. And so we are talking all about how this profound work can lead to breakthrough moments, how it can help to dissolve what's unconsciously blocking us, what may be holding you back from reaching that next level in your business or in your relationships or in your personal life. And Amanda is sharing her story and what brought her into this work, where she's directly working with the energy body and creating real lasting transformation, and how spinal energetics can also help you step into your full potential with greater ease and clarity. And speaking of spinal energetics and transformation, I am so excited to share these details with you because I will be leading an incredible workshop with my dear friend Zina Calisperdes in London. Mark your calendars, January 25th and 26th at Still Point Yoga near London Bridge. We are offering a beautiful 2-day workshop that includes morning Mysore and then afternoon workshop sessions called Elevate Your Inner Experience and Yoga Practice. This immersive weekend workshop will take you on a journey through your invisible anatomy, the energy body, and deepen your understanding of what is this subtle energy and the profound impact that it has on your physical body and also your mental and emotional well-being. We are going to do some breath work as well as the spinal energetics healing practice on all of the participants who come, because both Zina and myself are certified spinal energetic practitioners as well. And so you are going to learn how you can start to access your own inner energy and feel the energetic currents moving through your body and along your spine. And this will just unlock seriously profound insights, and it's going to be a transformative experience. I cannot wait. I hope you will join us. If you are in England, in the UK, in London, you have no excuse. Get on the train and come find us at Still Point Yoga, January 25th and 26th. So if you're curious If you're confused, if you're wanting to know more, let's dive into this conversation with Amanda O'Mara and discover what is exactly spinal energetics and how it might just be the key to unlocking your next level of growth and expansion. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony. I'm so happy you are here because I am here with Amanda O'Mara. Hello, Amanda.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me, Harmony. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you because you have such an interesting story, I think. We met online and then through the spinal energetics community,
Yeah.
and we have so much in common. I felt like, oh, this is a soul sister down there in the Rocky Mountains also.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, doing like somatic business coaching, an alchemist healer, spinal energetics practitioner, and just into all things integrative medicine
Yes.
on both like a spiritual and practical plane.
Mhm. That is true.
So let's get into it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm so curious. You told me that you grew up Catholic and you have 10
Yeah,
siblings?
I have 10.
Like there's 11 of you?
There's 11. Yeah, grew up, 10 total.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
actually 4 or 5 years ago, we found out we had an 11th sibling through a DNA testing. My sister took this DNA test and got this random message from this guy named John. And he was like, hey, it appears we have the same father. We're like, what? And we looked into it, and it was
Wow.
back when you could donate sperm for people and stuff before DNA testing was a thing, and he was completely anonymous. And so, yeah, years later, go figure. He's
Wow.
great. Oh my gosh, he's totally a
That's
sibling.
fun.
He's actually my age. We're only like 2 months apart, and yeah, we look more. Him and I look more alike than I do any of my other siblings. I'm the only one with blonde hair, blue eyes, and light skin. The rest of my siblings, besides John, have darker hair, darker skin, brown eyes, and it's just like, whoa.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's, you know what? It's kind of another thing we have in common.
Really?
Not the exact sibling part, but we also did ancestry.com and found out that my father's hopefully she's not listening to this. No, she won't. She's 95. But she had a secret baby. And that
Oh,
secret baby grew up and had 3 children. And so I have 3 half first cousins.
wow.
And one of my first cousins, we totally are so similar also, and like into all the same stuff and really connected. And so I felt like I found a sister also.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love stories like that. But then it also makes you wonder, like, who else am I related to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so how did this happen? How did you grow up? What was life like with 10 siblings?
Chaotic, dysfunctional, awesome,
Yeah.
fun, terrible, all the above. I mean, it really is.
Wow.
It was just such a wild experience. And, looking back, I would have it no other way. But growing up, it definitely felt like you get forgotten because they just start popping kids. I'm the second oldest,
The
and
second, yeah.
it's mostly boys. So I have 8 brothers, 2 sisters, and I swear none of them knew how to put pants on or wipe their butt. So I was the mom growing up. And so
Ah.
just cooking and cleaning nonstop, like a second mom. So I became hyper independent at a pretty young age. Grew up Catholic, so I was actually an altar boy, altar girl. We at one point were going to church almost every single day. Went to Catholic school, private school, public school, in and out, all over the place, moving multiple times. So it was pretty unstable, I would say, but also
Mhm.
just really fun. I mean, so many great memories with my family and a lot of
Yeah.
good times. My parents would lock us outside for hours all day back when you could actually do that. And it was, an okay thing to do. And we'd build these crazy, crazy forts in the middle of the woods. And man, yeah, I was a Viking at a very young age.
Did you grow up in Colorado?
No, I grew up in New Hampshire, or
Okay.
what some people
Okay.
call Hampshire. And then my dad's side of the family lives there, and they also I have like 7 aunts and uncles just on my dad's side, and they all had 10 kids as well, each of them. And so we would get
Oh my
together
gosh.
on Sundays after church, and it was like a freaking party. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 40, 50 people, pool parties, and yeah. Good
Wow,
times.
that sounds insanely crazy.
Yeah,
Like, also fun, but also
crazy.
insanely
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna deny that. It was crazy.
But what do you think happened? So, like, as you were growing up, I mean, I get that. If you're the second oldest, you have an older brother?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're the mom
Yeah,
after your mom, and your mom's probably insane with so many children that you took on so much responsibility
yeah.
and grew up really
I don't know
fast.
how she did it. I know she's an angel. Like, I still look at
Yeah.
her today, I'm like, "Mom, how?"
Yeah, it's incredible, right? Wow.
Mhm.
But what happened? You said that you had a lot of social anxiety and, like, panic attacks and a bunch of stuff starting to come up as you were growing up and
Yeah,
moving into high school.
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts around what brought up some of those conditions and issues, like, internally?
I do. I think it was a compilation of multiple things. So, I was actually sexually abused when I was about 3 years old, and then obviously being in such a big family and one of the eldest, my parents trusted me and needed me to take over
Mhm.
so many responsibilities. And so I grew up really, really fast. And so I never really had the childhood that I probably would have wanted or having that kind of love and support that I needed.
Mhm.
And just feeling the weight of the world on me as well. And no matter what
Yeah.
I did, it never felt like it was quite good enough. You know, the only attention I would
Mhm.
really get was when I would get straight A's in school and I would get a pat on the back. Good job, Amanda. You know, so I became a perfectionist at a very young age, a people pleaser. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, I was about 10 years old when they took me to the doctors and couldn't figure out what's wrong. And the psychologist was like, "Oh, you have anxiety." And I was so
Mhm.
mad. I was like, "What? I don't have anxiety because I'm a perfectionist. I'm perfect."
Right.
So I was really
Yeah.
mad and I was just like, "I don't understand." Like, I think I thought it was such a bad thing. Like, looking back,
Mm.
obviously it's not. But yeah, I just like we were just very sheltered, I would say. It was really hard to leave the house and like we couldn't watch movies over PG. Everything was screened. You know, we went to church and that was it. We're homeschooled for most of our lives and then private school, which the private
Mhm.
school was very small. I had two other people in my grade and they were my cousins. So, yeah, so when we did get into the outside world, public school, which came
Mm.
around when I was in my high school years, middle school, then high school, but again, back and forth. I was so afraid of rejection. I was so afraid of what people would say about me. I used to get teased a lot growing up. I was like that dumb blonde, being the only one with
Mm.
blonde hair. And so I just became a mute. I didn't speak. It was debilitating to even say one word. It took every ounce of energy out of me. I would have to write notes to my friends to communicate with them, like sitting next to me. And
Wow.
yeah, so that was high school. And then graduation came. And then I became a drunk because that was the only
Mm.
time I could. I mean, it's not laughable. I shouldn't, but like,
Yeah.
I found a part of me that could like take that veil off, the people pleaser,
Mhm.
the mute in me, and like actually have a good time and start talking. It was the only time I could finally start talking. But then it was
Yeah.
more drugs that started getting involved, and it was, just wasn't good. And had an overdose experience. Ended up in the hospital. Had a near death experience, and then it was shortly after that that things started to wake up for me. And then I got into
Mm.
fitness first, and that, I swear, saved my life. Health and fitness, went down that
Yeah.
road, taking care of myself, working restaurants all of my 20s, went to school for hospitality, but was never really truly happy. I don't know if I should be sharing the rest of this story if you wanna hear it, but
Yeah, yeah, keep going, keep going.
yeah.
Good.
But yeah, feel free to like ask any questions along the way. But Yeah, and so that was my 20s, and still like major panic attacks during that time. Like I would literally be having a conversation like we are right now. And then out of nowhere I would start feeling like the heat and sweating. I don't know what's going on, and I start to like clench up, and my all my hands would start to go inward like a T-Rex, and then I'd like fall to the ground and I get really nauseous. It was really bad. So that would happen when I'm driving or when I'm working. I would get horrible migraines. I was sick all the time, all the time. I was very, very dysregulated my entire life. And I had never known what that was. I just thought there was just something wrong with me. Right. And
It's so interesting to me about like I think health and fitness is great.
yeah,
Yes, in a certain capacity because it can, yeah, it shifts our awareness, our attention from like living in the self-destructive patterns to patterns that are maybe a little bit more constructive
right.
or nurturing or building up rather than destroying down. But also, in a way, I see this a lot that it almost becomes a different type of addiction where
Yep.
now you become so perfectionistic and regulated in like your food or your exercise routine that it's just like another structure to control your life. And now, I mean, it's a better type of control than
Yeah,
drugs and
it's definitely
alcohol, but
healthier.
it's,
But
yeah, but
yeah, and that's what happened to me. I one of the first things I started doing was obstacle course racing with Tough Mudder, Spartan racing, and I was very competitive. And my training consisted of we have these over 14,000 feet mountains in Colorado. My training would be to run up these mountains with no backpack, no water, and then run back down. Right. Anybody who's just doing this day to day, you have to get up early, 2 a.m. to hit the trailhead by 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So you're summiting by 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. before the weather, and then you're down by the late afternoon. So it's a full day, and you are like spent. Like, and we would do these in a few hours. My coach would do this, and like I
wow.
felt badass at the time, but looking back, I ended up getting really sick because of it. I overtrained. I wasn't fueling my body enough to keep up with the amount of training. And then plus I would do that all day, and then I'd go wait tables and bartend at night. And so you're on your feet, and I would probably, if I'm working a double, 10 miles a day, just walking.
Oh my
Yeah, it's a
gosh.
lot. Yeah. But hey, I had a really good
Yeah.
six pack I was proud of. But
So then what happened? You're training, you're like living your
yeah.
best life compared to what it was. You're feeling pretty good but still struggling with anxiety
Yeah.
and perfectionism and probably pushing yourself really hard, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. I was pushing myself really hard. It wasn't until I got really sick and basically had to quit racing because I started realizing how much it was affecting my health. And I would break out these random rashes all over my back, these little white dots. I forget what
Mm.
it's called, but and it would last for months and months until I like was able to recover my body. Like recovery after overtraining takes longer than the training itself because that's how
Mm.
bad it can get. And so your body just goes into shutdown. And that's what my body did. It shut down. And so I really took a step back and I ended up getting into more lifting, weightlifting, and then
Mhm.
discovered personal training from that.
Yeah.
So I became a personal trainer, which led me to become an online personal trainer. And I started my own business with that. Lift Like a Boss. That was the very
Nice.
first business years ago. But it was in that entrepreneurial experience of starting a business where shit really hit the fan with the anxiety, with the fears, with all of the mindset stuff coming up. And if you want to work on mindset, you want to work on healing, start a freaking business because it will show all of your freaking triggers, like for real. And that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened.
I totally believe that. I
Yeah.
mean, my whole philosophy is like business as a spiritual practice because like until you put yourself in those positions where you're feeling vulnerable or you don't know the outcome or it brings up all of your stuff or you like come face to face with your ego.
Yeah.
and it's not just like kill your ego. Like, that's not reasonable. You
Oh,
need an
yeah.
ego to survive in the world. So it's like, how do you negotiate that space
Yeah.
and success and failure and trying to keep your mind steady and balanced when things are going not at all the way you planned? It's
Yeah.
so challenging
Oh,
to be in business and also be an aware, curious, like spiritual practitioner or even like a personal trainer, anyone. It's like, if
yeah.
you're interested in self-development, get into business.
Get into business for real. Like, yeah, I remember, I wanted to be successful so bad. And when I first started out, I was used to making like $3,000-$4,000 a month, waiting tables, bartending, and I hired a business coach for the first time, and it was $4,000 for the business coach. I was like, "Holy shit, that's a lot of money." And then I was like, "Well, okay, hold on. Well, let me think about it." And he was like, "Well, what do you need to think about?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. That's a lot of money." I'm like, "Yeah, of course it's a lot of money." But he just started doing the whole sales thing on me working through the objections. And then the next thing I know it, I was handing him my credit card information. And it was honestly the best thing I could have done, because without him, I never would have been lovingly called out on all of my fear gremlins and really dove into the mindset work that was needed. And so that's where that a lot of that personal development started in the entrepreneur space. And then that led me to become a very successful fitness coach. And then COVID hit,
Ugh.
and every personal trainer lost their jobs in the gym. And they saw me, Amanda, over here rocking, making all kinds of money. And they were like, "Amanda, help us." And so within a couple months, I launched a whole new business program just for online fitness coaches. And then that blew up and became very successful, made more money than I ever had. Had a small team of about 6 or 7 at the time. And then, yeah, did that for a few years. And then again, just like I was teaching mindset now at this point, personal development. And then it started dawning on me. I started working with hundreds of different coaches, fitness coaches. And I would see Becky over here following the exact same strategy and mindset and all the things. But then Felicia over here following the exact same things, the mindset, strategy, everything, but still struggling to grow her business. And I was like, what is the missing link? Like, they both have a good head on their shoulders. They're both following the strategy. What's the missing link? And that's what eventually led me down into more of the somatic work, because, mindset therapy, that stuff is a mind down approach. You needed a body up approach to get the body on board. And that's how you manifest too, right? You got to feel the emotions within, and your nervous system is probably wired a certain way where it doesn't feel safe yet to receive that kind of money in business. And so you have to almost release and then calibrate your system within to be able to become that match to the frequency of whatever it is you desire. And so then that started leading me down this whole other rabbit hole. And during that time, it was really interesting. My business, super successful business, it was the month of January. And it's our best month financially, always, every year. We made $0 that month.
Wow.
Like, still following all the same strategies and everything. And mind you, this was after like doing a little ayahuasca ceremony. I
Yeah.
was told I was supposed to be a healer, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool," but I never acted on it. And then literally, it felt like the universe like shut my business down for me on purpose, because the first message I got from a clairvoyant, without even saying anything to her, was there. She was like, "Your guides just wanted to let you know that they're sorry, but this was the only way to get you to listen." I
Wow.
was like,
That's so interesting.
yeah. I had to let go of my whole team. I finished off my clients. I shut down this business, and then I took a year off I tried to take a year off of business. But the old me, who was always just go, 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 go. And if I don't work today, then I feel guilty if I'm not working kind of energy.
Yes. Yes, I'm familiar with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are moms. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are. So yeah, so anyways, that's when I started the healing work, not just for myself, but then I
Yeah.
discovered spinal energetics, and I was like, "Yep, this is it." And here I am now, a couple years later.
So what drew you? I'm so curious because I find this really fascinating. I mean, I think a lot of people will be listening and they're into yoga, meditation, have spiritual practices, but besides getting a message from a clairvoyant, I mean, most people might get that message and just be like, whatever, you're
Yeah.
crazy, right? But what was it that kind of drew you into this other realm? And were you at all skeptical or were you
Totally.
totally open
Oh,
to it?
no, I didn't
Yeah.
even believe in God. It was always interesting to me. Like, I remember years ago, like I went to this one house party and they had a tarot card reader there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then she pulled a card for me and I was like, this doesn't even resonate. This is stupid. And I was like pissed. Yeah, no, so not into it. But honestly, for me, and this is going to be different for everybody, but I had to go through this massive spiritual awakening. Like I went to the deepest of the darkest. There's so much more to the story, but in the midst of all this business stuff, we lost our house to a wildfire. I escaped barely from it. So life changes a lot for you when you
Mhm.
literally have no underwear left, socks or shoes to put on your feet. Like perspectives change quickly.
Yeah.
And I changed very quickly, but I had to go through this really dark phase to come out. And I needed something to believe in. I needed hope. I needed anything. And then the energy healing is what was drawn to me the most. And it's just
Mhm.
started playing with it more and more and started working with more energy healers. I'm like, this is actually working. I have tried literally everything else. I've done EMDR, therapy, all of that for past traumas and business coaches, mentors, mindset coaches, you name it. I have invested thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars actually at this point. And somatic healing, energy healing was by far the most transformative thing I could have ever done. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your first experience? Like what did you seek out first? Was it like Reiki
It was
or like chakra
ayahuasca.
balancing?
Well,
Ayahuasca.
okay.
Okay.
My very,
Yeah.
very first session was actually Reiki. So this was, gosh, this was probably like 6, 7 years ago, maybe even 8 years
Mhm.
ago. And I was going through this really bad, like emotional thing with a friend, and I just felt like stuck with it. And I tried everything, right? Nothing was working. And so like heard about Reiki. I didn't know what it was. And I was like, I'll just book a session. And I went into it and I just laid there for 90 minutes. Nothing happened really until towards the very end. I was basically like falling asleep on the table, but she was over my heart. I did not know she was over my heart. And then all of a sudden it felt like something was ripping out of my chest and I was gasping for air. I was like, what the fuck was that? She's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me, what the fuck was that? And like, I was so confused on what had just happened. And it lasted like 30 seconds. And then I came back to a calm state and then I left. But I left that place. I felt like I got hit by a train or like I just had this deep, deep massage. Like I just felt beat up. And I
Mhm.
just went home and I slept for hours and hours. And then I woke up like a completely different person. So that was my very first energy healing. And then it wasn't
Yeah.
until the business shut down that I went and did ayahuasca. And that's when I
Yeah.
had this huge awakening and saw my past lives. I saw all my own stuff, the perfectionism and the people pleaser and like the trying to control stuff and like so much more. Just really like facing who I was. And then, yeah, then I saw my future. They're like, Amanda, you're a healer. Hello. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, so you get this message, you're a
Yeah.
healer. You've had a mystic experience. And so then what do you do with that information? Where do you
Nothing.
go? What do you start doing? Oh my
Well, I
gosh.
didn't listen at first. I was just like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you're like, "Bring me someone to heal,"
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Well, I didn't know like what the heck I was doing. And I just
Yeah.
kept, I mean, I was making lots of money with my business. I was like, well, this is where the money's at. I was focused on money. Right at the time.
Yeah.
Like that's what was
Yeah.
important to me. I wanted to hit the
Yeah.
next levels, those 100K months, my first $1 million. Like that was my next goal. And I was almost there. And then literally like shut down.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And that's when, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm listening now. And then that's when we decided, we as in me and my guys were like, okay. I just started my own healing journey. And when I did my own healing, I was able
Yeah.
to reconnect with myself. And when I was reconnecting with myself, but getting back into alignment with my true essence, my soul, and who I really am deep down, that's when it really became clear to me, like, okay, this is the work I need to be doing to really help people on a deeper level.
Yeah. So how did you get into spinal energetics? Because it's kind of like not popular, I'm going to say. There's like 500 practitioners or a little bit more probably around the world. So it's
Yeah,
fairly new in a way, even though I feel like it's very old.
I know. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I feel like it has been around for billions of years and we just don't know it yet. But Dr. Sarah Jane is so freaking smart that she was able to like kind of package it together in a way that's teachable. But for me, I saw a reel on Instagram and I was like,
yeah,
oh, I want to do that. And it was just like an instant knowing and just an instant
yeah,
knowing. Yeah.
yeah. And so then you just sought her out
Yeah.
and jumped
You know,
in.
it's funny. I applied for the program, I got
Mhm.
in, and then I didn't make the payment. I doubted myself for a couple months. And then they followed up with me like, hey, did you still want to take this course? The
Mhm.
deadline's coming up. And I was like, nah, crap. And so I did it reluctantly, but I
Yeah.
know that was all because of fear. A lot of times when you know what you're meant to do, you're going to be
Mm.
tested right before you make the ultimate leap. And I think that's what happened to me, where, you're challenged in a way like, okay, is this really what you want to do? And yeah,
Yeah.
it was once I put those away.
Had you been doing some other healing work before that or just receiving
Yeah,
and doing your
so
own work?
I had literally just finished this 3-month intuitive energy healing program with Crystal
Mm.
Cook. She taught me how to do intuitive energy healing, life coaching, hypnotherapy, just learning all about energy, like energy 101, I would say, and just how to read energy and how to do readings, all of that. So I started practicing. And so it was just 3 months straight of just practicing, learning and practicing, learning and practicing. Yeah. So I had a little bit of a background with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't like just random kind
No.
of like, "Oh, this looks cool."
No. I just remember like I knew it was time to start learning. And I said, okay, universe, like send me in the right direction. And then I saw her course pop up. And then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. So I did that. But it was such a great foundation to have for getting into
Yeah.
spinal energetics. I would not have done well with that work had I not had that foundation yet and understanding energy and how to read it. Yeah, you got to be a little bit intuitive, I feel like, to get into this work.
Yeah, and I like how Sarah Jane says she speaks body
Yeah.
because in my line of work, like the past 25 years of learning hands-on adjustments and working with people's body in a yoga setting where they're all doing their own practice and reading energy and bodies, there's something that happens in a very unconscious way where you just are responding. And I think that's the biggest hurdle for students when
Yeah.
they're transitioning from students to teacher. And I think it's similar in spinal energetics too. And I felt this hurdle in myself and I was like, oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember what it was like when you first started learning how to teach yoga. It's up here in your mind and you're trying to make sense of like, okay, well, what's the right thing to do? And even if you're mentoring under someone, you're like, but why did you go there? Like, what's the mind reason for it? But really it's coming from like that somatic experience and it's beyond language, I think. It's just feeling it in your own body or feeling it in your, I don't know, in your just knowingness. And there's not really like a intellectual
Yeah.
reason.
Well, I mean, starting out, like for me, I was very like, 'cause you have all the different processes in spinal energetics. And so I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I do this next and then this next, following the recipe to the T. I was not intuitive at first. I was very much in my head. But then,
Yeah.
just like tying your shoe, if you do it so many times, you don't think about tying your shoe anymore. And so that's
Yeah.
what started happening with spinal energetics. Everything started becoming more subconscious or second nature, and then that's when you come out of the mind and more into your own subconscious. When you're in your subconscious, at least from my experience, I have found to be way more intuitive. Once you intentionally connect to their field, you're able to pick up on what their emotions are. And I think anybody can feel this. Like you walk into the room, you know the energy of the room, right? One person yawns, the other person's yawn. You're in their field. It's the same thing with spinal energetics. Once you're in their field, like you can pick up on if it's trapped emotions, like you can create your own little clairs. Like, so for me, I know they have trauma if I start getting nauseous, or I know they have trapped emotions if I start getting lightheaded or dizzy, right? Because it's just like, oh, like something is trapped, right? And so you start to create your correlations within the energy field and what's different for you. You know, how I pick up on it's going to be totally different for you too. You know, maybe once you're connected in a field and somebody's field, like your ears start ringing. I don't know.
Yeah.
So kind of
It's
getting,
possible.
yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question or if that was a question, but
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's a really common question, right?
yeah.
And even like as a spinal energetics practitioner, people are like, well, what do you feel? How do you know? Like, what's going on? What did you
Yeah.
see?
It's very intentional. The whole thing, everything that we're doing
Yeah.
has like, I don't know if formula is the right word to it, as far as knowing like, okay, is it ancestral? Is it a physical trauma? Is it an emotional trapped emotion? Is it a mental story? Is it something that you're surrogating from somebody else? Or is it in the soul? Like, are you disconnected from your soul, or is there past life healing that needs to happen? So there is a way through the trainings where we're taught to know where it is. And then sometimes a little bit more specifically, depending on how the body is talking, to know more of like what energy is being released or rewired in the nervous system. Like, for example, if it's on the right side of the body, that's the masculine side. And so you can usually pick up on that. If it feels dense, then you know that it's probably more like ancestral or grandpa, great great grandpa. So yeah, it's just there's ways, but it's through practice that I feel like we get tuned into what that is for each of us and knowing what that is to create that intuition.
Yeah. What's some of because you have an amazing Instagram account too, with lots of amazing spinal energetics things going on. People can look it up after.
Yeah, come say hi.
What's like some of the amazing results you've seen as someone facilitating this work with clients?
So many. Oh my gosh. Where do I even begin? I have found that a lot of the results that I have seen are mirrored based off the results that I've seen for myself and what I've been through too. What's actually interesting, I've been picking up on a lot of like birth stuff, and I don't have kids, but I did have a past life where I lost children and stuff like that. So I think that's why it comes through for me when I pick up on it. But they'll have like hip pain in their sacral area, and then I'll get a vision of like a birth. There was one where she had had pain most of her life. She was a little bit older, and she came to me, saw an image of like a full-born baby in her belly, and then I asked her afterwards, and she said she had lost a stillborn, and she was just super super emotional after that. So she had a lot of trapped emotions going on, and then afterwards the pain just completely gone. Another friend had a recent car accident, and she went to the chiropractor, the doctor, like everything, and the pain wouldn't go away. Within 5 minutes of her session, there was this big release of just like literally it looks like a wave on the spine, and the back pain gone. It hasn't come back.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of pain, chronic pain in the body, anxiety that goes away, depression that goes away, ADHD that goes away, people who don't drink alcohol as much or do drugs as much, like they just have no need to do it. People who shift perspectives, I feel like that's one of the biggest people start seeing, especially right away. Perspectives in life and changing it to something that's more healthy. They aren't triggered as much from things that would normally trigger them. It doesn't phase them anymore. Which, by the way, if you are triggered, I'd say that's number one sign you have an unhealed version of you. And so I always tell my clients that I'm like, if you get triggered, come back to see me because we got some more work to do. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I've worked with a coach and done her coaching program, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. And she always says that if you're triggered, it's yours.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. How is this like, what is this that I'm seeing or that I'm projecting? It's like the secret to existence, I think.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And once you're aware of them, Like the triggers could be, maybe the husband doesn't help with the dishes and that triggers you. Okay, so there's an unhealed version in there. Something small like that, or maybe you have anxiety, maybe you have depression, maybe you can't put that bottle of wine down, or you begin to isolate. And there's so many signs of a unhealed version or triggers. So just
Yeah.
paying attention to those.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes we might see that like, oh, I'm projecting, or oh, this is mine. But then instead of like doing some of that deeper work to integrate
Yeah.
those parts of ourselves and like be with them and like, it's okay. You don't have to
Yes.
feel insecure, or you don't have to, whatever the thing is,
Yeah.
you don't have to do everything, even though you feel like you have to do everything,
Oh my
like
gosh.
just be with those parts of ourselves, and understand even where the pattern comes from and how it's trying to serve us or what it's trying to tell us at a deeper level. Like maybe it's telling you you need to rest. Maybe it's
Mhm.
telling you you need to ask for support. Maybe it's right. There's all kinds of things underneath those patterns that are really trying to be helpful for us.
Yeah.
But if we just try and shut it down, like, oh, I got this, fine, I'm triggered and it's mine. It's like you found the key, but you're not opening the door.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's a good analogy. You gotta go within and walk right through it, and a lot of people don't go there because it can be scary, but the
Yeah.
thing is, it's not as bad as I think most people think, and it's always worth it. It's just like a workout, like, do we ever regret a workout? It's like you feel so much better afterwards too, and lighter, and just like, "Ooh, yeah." But you're
Yeah.
still gonna be sore the next couple of days as you integrate the workout at the gym. It's the same thing with healing, especially if you do a
Yeah.
spinal energetic session. It feels, if anything, very cathartic. Like it just feels good to just finally let it go, whether that's through a shake or a cry or a laugh. And then you usually feel lighter, but then
Mhm.
you might be sore a couple days. And then you start
Yeah.
feeling really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always surprising whenever I receive spinal energetics work. I always sometimes feel like I've been doing sit-ups and my calves are
Oh my
sore. And I'm
God.
like, what's
Yeah.
going on? I'm
Yeah.
totally like working out here.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, you're getting an energetic massage or energetic
Yeah.
workout. Like you're you're building strength energetically instead of
Yeah.
muscularly.
But I think another interesting thing that happens with spinal energetics is sometimes we make up these stories about the past or why we're feeling a certain way or triggered or whatever. We get into the whole story of
Mm.
it. But spinal energetics is a little different. It's more somatic based so that we don't really need to know the reason why.
Yeah.
How do you think that why do you think that works? Like why is the nervous system is it in the nervous system? How does it work that we don't actually need to even really know
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah. I think it is mostly in the nervous system. If you really think about our subconscious, like day to day and
Mhm.
how we operate is 99.9999999% subconscious, right? Just think about how many things you do throughout the day, you don't even realize you're doing them, right? so
Yeah.
so
Like breathing.
yeah, like breathing. Yes, thank you. That's a great example. So, of course, like when you're doing spinal energetics, the work is about getting to the root, right? It's not the alcohol
Mhm.
that's the problem. It's probably the root of something stemming from when you were 5 years old and dad was an alcoholic and you didn't feel loved or something. And
Mhm.
so the spinal energetics goes to that root within the nervous system without necessarily having to remember it on a conscious level. Maybe
Mhm.
you've already processed it in therapy or processed it in whatever you needed to logically in the mind, but now the body needs to do what it needs to do. And we're all animals, so we're going to move however we need to move or not move at all because that isn't a sign necessarily in spinal energetics if it's processing or not, for it to now be shifted and sorted and worked through so you can finish that defense feedback loop within the nervous system so that you can restore that homeostasis so you can bring safety back into the nervous system. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Harmony? I mean, It is.
I mean, it's so magical in
It
a
is.
way. I don't know,
Yeah.
like maybe it sounds too woo to describe it that way, but I think there is something like what you're saying that our bodies actually hold memories.
Yeah.
And with somatic coaching, a lot of what I do is tap into the unconscious through a sensation in the body. And I feel like it's the same thing that we're doing in the spinal energetics is that our bodies hold those patterns, like you're saying. Our nervous system holds the pattern, it holds the memory or the emotion or
Yeah, it
the
has its own
belief or
memory.
whatever it
It's got
is.
its
Yeah, it
own
has its own memory.
intelligence or
Yeah.
brain, if you will, right? Where
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be remembered in the human mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And that also often I think what we do is we take like especially if it's a painful memory or an embarrassing memory or something like that, we take it and store it in our bodies somewhere,
Yes.
and then we try to cut it off, like forget about
Yeah.
it. And so then when we're facilitating spinal energetics, it's really like facilitating consciousness into those areas of the body.
Mhm.
Not so that necessarily you remember it, but just because it's so unconscious or subconscious, right? Where it's just like bringing energy, which is intelligence, which is consciousness, into parts of ourselves that we've cut off
Mm.
and like welcoming them back into wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's a very physical kind of representation of this, and I think a lot of emotional mastery work or parts work or family constellation work or whatever kind of other coaching modalities are there is doing that emotionally or through our thoughts, through our beliefs, trying to just bring things into wholeness and integrate them. And I
Mhm.
feel like spinal energetics is doing that for the body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I used to be the person that would journal every single morning, meditate for 30 minutes every single day. I had my routine down to make sure I got all of this, the mind, body, soul tasks in every day. But since doing spinal energetics, I hardly do that stuff anymore because you
Yeah.
don't need it. Like I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just, I don't need to meditate as much because I'm already connected with me, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. It does. Because I think also there's an awareness when you tap into that current of consciousness and energy, there's an awareness that it's there all the time. Like it's not there when you meditate. You can do it anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime. One of my favorite things to do is when I go for my walks with my dogs every day is just meditate while I'm walking, just being mindful of
Yeah.
all my senses. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I feel on my skin? Same thing when I'm doing mundane tasks and chores around the house, putting dishes away, literally like taking a moment to like be in tune and slow down and really notice what I'm doing. Yeah.
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 Because it's embodied and it's bringing the mind to the present moment, to what's happening here,
Yeah.
rather than I think so much we're so disconnected. Like our mind, I mean, it's a cliche, like our mind and body are disconnected,
Yeah.
but it's also like just coming into that presence, I think is healing
Mhm.
as well.
Oh, yeah, presence. I mean, I'd say that's the biggest thing that's helped me, especially somebody with really bad past anxiety,
Uh,
yeah, PTSD and panic attacks and stuff. Become present. Easier
yeah.
said than done, but it's practice like anything else.
So one question I get asked sometimes is, can I do this myself? Can I do spinal energetics to myself? What do you think?
Well, it depends on where you're at. If you're a facilitator, I mean, I do it on myself all the time. Yeah. The way I like to explain it, like what we do as facilitators is like we are that personal trainer for people, but could they go to the gym and work out on their own? Yeah. But when you have somebody there to help guide you and lead you through like do this with the body next and this with the body next, it gives them that permission and allows that for them to be held and seen and heard and understood. Having that empathetic witness there, I think everybody needs that. But yeah,
Mhm.
anybody could do this. I have clients that after first couple of sessions with me, they're meditating or they're in their car driving and they let me know like I just started moving randomly and I don't know how. It's because that's your innate wisdom. That's your body's
Yeah.
intelligence. It's already remembering how to unwind on its own without
Mm.
you blocking that. You're giving it permission, but I would be mindful as far as when you let that release, because you don't want to go to bed and then all of a sudden you're tweaking out in the middle of the night having an exorcism. Get that good night of sleep first.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. Something was coming to me as you were speaking, and I feel like the type of yoga we teach is Mysore style, where people come in, they do their own practice, and you can practice yoga on your own at home,
Yeah.
and it works. It's great, but it's really nice often, depending on how much accessibility you have, to be in a room with other people and get those hands-on adjustments that
Yeah.
are just gonna help you, like, move your attention into your body in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, and I would definitely a lot of people don't know. They were never taught in an early age how to deal with emotions, how to move their body a certain way. So I think it's absolutely vital to have a practitioner to learn how to remember these things. And Dr.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane jokes all the time, it's a poor business model because like this work isn't meant to work with us forever. We want to teach you how to do this on your own someday, right? It's just remembering how to do that. And so like when you experience a session, for example, maybe you have a tension pattern in your shoulders and your neck area where you're quote holding the weight of the world, or you're type A personality, or you get stuck in the head a lot. But as you're trying to bring energy into that space, your body is moving down in the hips, but you don't know what to do with that energy. Or maybe your feet start like going back and forth like you're trying to run away, right? And so what
Mhm.
we want to learn how to do is to unconsciously train the or retrain the body to move that energy buildup in the lower part of the body up into the neck so that it knows it's safe to come into that space again, right?
Yeah.
But without a person there to show you how to do that, it can be a little difficult. And yeah, I don't think it would make anything worse, but to remember how to do that
Mhm.
so it becomes easier.
And what I'm hearing too is, like, we get stuck in patterns or
Yeah.
cycles, like, in our body somatically, as well as in our mind or our emotions or habits or behaviors or patterns, and so having someone there to help facilitate the movement of that energy into areas that are out of the range of your pattern,
Yeah.
say, or is helpful because it opens you up to new possibilities. It opens you up to a different type of movement or pattern, the
Yeah.
same way is when we're stuck, like, emotionally or behaviorally, just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
It helps to have someone move,
Yeah.
you know,
And
move that
you've
pattern.
probably experienced this too, Harmony, like combining spinal with yoga. I think
Yeah.
like cuz yoga will put you into those positions consciously to help move that energy better, right? To bring it into
Yeah.
that space that it needs to flow like a wave. But yeah, like you'll learn as you do it like where you feel the resistance. Like the resistance in the body feels like those little skips in the breath or twitching and like you're like clenching your muscles and you're avoiding, right? You know what avoidance feels versus the expansion. And so once you can kind of learn the difference when you're doing spinal on yourself or just tapping into your own intelligence is really what you're doing to allow that to unwind, then
Mm.
you'll learn how to breathe through those tension patterns to allow ease again in that space where there's disconnection.
It's so powerful, and I love your sessions with the light language, and that was
Yeah,
something that I was
yeah.
actually, you talk about integrating yoga and spinal energetics, I was like, now I'm integrating my yoga teaching and adjustments with spinal energetics and light language, and I'm like,
Yes.
"This is the trifecta of powerfulness."
Oh my god, win. Hello. Yeah, literally the best. I love
Yeah.
light language. Ugh,
It seems so interesting to me that you lost your voice or, like, your capacity to
I
speak or your
know.
will to speak. And this is so vibration oriented and sound oriented,
Mhm.
like both spinal energetics and light language is really about connecting to that
Oh,
vibration to
yeah.
move
Oh,
energy.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, it just God, light language is like spinal energetics on steroids. Like it's on crack. It is frequency. When you work with like sound and frequency like that, like sound healing, or, there's videos all over the internet of how you can see one specific frequency create a ripple effect in the water, create a geometric shape. You're essentially, sounds can help repattern. And that's what light language does and light codes do. They help repattern on a cellular level within the tissues of the body and in the energetic field to create that flow, reconnection again.
So powerful.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love it. I could talk to you all day about this, but tell everyone where they can find you to tap into your genius and sign up for an online session or an in-person session or.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say the gram, come check me out on Instagram at Agape Holistic Healing. There's underscores between each of those words. But yeah, you can book a session through the links in my bio there. Send me a message to say hi. You can go to my website, agapeholistichealing.com. Whatever you want to do, that's where you can reach me or book a session and get some spinal energy and light language and Reiki and all the good stuff in the same session, depending on what you need the most.
Yeah, and you have a wonderful podcast too, which I was a guest on as well. So everyone can go listen to your podcast. It's Calm CEO, right?
Yes, Calm CEO.
So I'm sure people will come and look you up and find you.
Amazing.
And I love your online sessions, spinal energetics. It's so, just before we wrap up, that's another thing is people are always a little bit skeptical about it working online versus in person.
Yeah.
And what's been your experience with that?
It's no different. We're working with energy, so that's why it's possible. And energy is not limited by time or space. And so clients get just as good a results, if not more, because sometimes they need to be in the comfort of their own home to be able to fully surrender and express in what feels comfortable to them in that moment. Yeah, it's great and it's convenient. I have clients from Dubai and Australia and just all over Thailand. Yeah. Everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed too, actually, is that online can be as powerful or sometimes more powerful than in person.
Well, if you think about it, it's always when I have an in-person client, it's the body looks so big. But then when you do it on virtual, it's a much smaller space. So you're working you can cover the whole body with one hand, right? And so you're able to work with more energy. So I almost personally have to go slower because it's just, I don't know how to explain that, but it's you're smaller on the screen versus in person. And so I feel like it's a little easier to work in the field or work with more energy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's psychically some kind of perspective thing of being a bigger force directed to a smaller kind of more specific point.
Yeah, it feels that way. If you were to brush your hand over the whole body, it would slowly move. But if you do the same thing on the screen, it takes a fraction of a second to do it. And so they're woo, a lot faster. So you have to go a little slower from what I feel.
Yeah.
But it's pretty powerful online.
It is. I agree. I think it's amazing. So thank you so much for coming on. It was so great to connect with you again and just have this conversation. I think so many people will enjoy it and it will hopefully spark some conversation and answer some questions.
Yeah. If you have questions, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. It's just write them in the comments. Thank you, my dear. It's so wonderful to see you.
Thanks for having me.
That was just so amazing. I learned so much and I hope you did too. If you would love to go deeper and take your practice off your yoga mat and into your life, into the world, starting to learn more about pranayama, developing a regular practice, chanting, tuning into the vibrations and the Sanskrit mantras, as well as looking at some of the more esoteric philosophical concepts, come on in to my Inner Circle mentorship. This is a private community that's online. I offer weekly Mysore classes in addition to these monthly workshops and special programs. And you can find out all the information when you join the Finding Harmony community. Head on over to community-harmonyslater.com. Join the community and come on into my Inner Circle mentorship. I would love for you to be a part of this beautiful space and start growing into the full richness of this yoga practice together with me. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.